Well, I'm absolutely honored to be here with you all today. Thank you so much for TED Talks for having me. And I'm going to start off actually by saying, be fearless in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire. Now I want to let that sit for a second and think about what that may mean to you. For me, it means to be resilient, to be relentless in pursuing excellence. And so for me, track and field is what I strive to pursue excellence in. And so, as mentioned, I am a two-time Paralympian. I competed in Beijing in 2008 and London in 2012. And I happen to be a right-sided hemiplegic. And so, at a very young age, I started running when I was 4 or 5 years old, and actually started running 1K fun runs. And my mom dug up this old medal last night from 2001. The first 1K fun run I probably did at a quicker pace, and by the time I was 8 years old, I had worked my way up to running 5K road races with my dad, who is sitting at the back there. I owe my talent in running to him all the way, and eventually surpassed him. Sorry, Dad. So from there, I learned that track and field was my outlet for many reasons. Not only was it something that I enjoyed, it was something that allowed me to take full control of my body and literally run with it. And so as I walk around stage here today, you're going to notice a slight limp, and this is because my leg on my right side is slightly shorter than my left. And so when I was very young, actually at birth, my umbilical cord twisted around my neck and caused a depletion of oxygen to my brain. And this depletion of oxygen resulted in me suffering from a condition called hemiplegia, and then the condition is right-sided hemiplegic. And so for those of you that are new to this term, basically what it means is that you can visualize a fuzzy television signal. And so my left side is like one of you. It's completely able-bodied, it's tough, it's strong, it looks after the right side and everything that it can't do. And so my right side, on the contrary, the muscles are weak, they're atrophied, so this means that they're less developed, and just not as strong. And I also have limited sensation all down the right side. And so with this comes a set of challenges that vary from day to day. I am no stranger to falls. I have a ton of bumps, scrapes, and bruises, fall on a weekly, daily, monthly basis. And actually, wore a pair of jeans today. They're designer Guess jeans, and my mom went and got a little patch here sewed, because I destroy quite a few jeans a year. I also probably shouldn't be wearing these high heel boots I have on due to my balance issues. So if you see me coming up close to the stage here, just kind of someone in the front row, you can just kind of push me back and say, oh, you're getting a little close there, Leah, don't fall off the stage, because we all know that would go viral very fast. So with being a right-sided hemiplegic, although there are a ton of challenges on the track, it's something that I use as an escape. It's a freedom for me. And so track and field has been an outlet my entire life for that reason. And so I've been very, very fortunate to be surrounded by an incredible group of people. I see a physiotherapist on a bi-weekly basis who makes sure that I am 100% ready to go 365 days a year. I also have an incredibly supportive family, 2 very supportive parents that know when I'm having a good day versus when I'm having a bad day. I also, as mentioned, I am the co-captain for a 2nd year in a row at the University of Guelph, the Guelph Gryphons, and I am so fortunate to have such an amazing group of people that have helped me day in, day out. I've had numerous athletes and teammates carry me from point A to point B. When I've had some of the toughest workouts on the track, they help me carry to my car when I can't walk, and sometimes give me a lift home and right up into my house and into my bedroom. And so I would not be standing here today if it wasn't for that amazing support that I've had around me for so many years. And so what being a disabled athlete has taught me is to be resilient. And so for me, this means able to withstand or recover quickly from difficult conditions. I had a rough start in life, and I somehow, by the grace of God, figured out how to be here and how to run, and took that ability and ran with it. And so this is something that resonates with me, and I try to apply it to every aspect of my life. That being said, as much as track and field has given me an amazing platform and an amazing life, it's also taught me a lot of good, valuable life lessons, both on and off the track. And so I want to wind it back and start when I became a newly minted Paralympian back in 2008 at the tender age of 14 years old. And so for those of you in high school here today, I had just completed grade 9, and that's obviously a huge year in high school to begin with, and I was off to my first Paralympic Games. So here I am, nice and young, and that's just the inside of the stadium. And so that was my first experience. At 14 years old, I finished 10th in the 100 and 11th in the 200. And that was my first exposure to the world stage. As you see here in the Bird's Nest, that stadium seats 90,000 people. So at 14 years old, I somehow had to figure out and overcome my own fears, my own nerves, to perform on a world stage with girls that were twice my age. And so that was a huge opportunity for me. And it also skyrocketed my track and field career at a very, very fast and alarming rate. So I suffered an injury, a minor injury, from October 2009 to March 2010, where I was in an air cast boot. However, I bounced back and made the 2010 Commonwealth Games in New Delhi, India. And so these are just some pictures from that. And I went on to actually break the Canadian record, which still stands in the 100-meter. And so that experience not only taught me that I did have the resiliency to get back up on my feet after an injury and go after something like making another national team. So that was my first kind of bump in the road. Wasn't too big, wasn't too bad, it was okay. So then I came back and also made the World Championships team in 2011 the following year. And I actually just have a quick clip here. And spoiler alert, I came in 5th.
It is the women's 400 metres T37 final.
And actually, as this plays, I'm just going to explain
kilometre an hour
kind of
southeasterly
how
blind,
my
which means the
condition
athletes will have
affects the girls in my race. So we're all clones, basically. We all suffer from the same thing. So you're going to see a difference in gait
women's 400 metres
for everyone in this race,
final,
racing compared
not far
to
away
an able-bodied
from a
athlete.
start. Very good field here, and expect this one to come between Ospinikova of Russia and Jodie Elkington of Australia. McAllister of Australia, season's best of 1:17.65, will start in lane 1. There's a 19-kilometre-an-hour southwesterly blowing here at QE2 Stadium. Mixed weather conditions.
There I am. No one judge my fashion choices. I regret that outfit.
1:18.94. She has gone 4 seconds quicker in the last 12 months.
I thought the arm sleeve was really cool. It's not.
Very impressive. Bethany Woodward of Great Britain qualified in 1:12.30. That's also a season's best for her. Ozyanikova of Russia ran very well in her heat to make this final. The hopes of Australia lie with Jodie Elkington. She's a strong girl. She ran very well through the first 300 in her heat, just tied up somewhat in the last 100 metres. This is the world record holder, Sneeza of the Ukraine. A little bit disappointing. Has a season's best of a 1:11.45. Will need to improve, though, from what we saw in her heat. Mikey Holzberger of Germany, lane 7. Wan Hang of China in lane 8, qualified in 1:16.89.
And the world record held by Elizabeth McIntosh, 1 minute and 4, set back at the Sydney Olympics in 2000.
I would just like to note that that world record has been smashed by a Brit as of Rio 2016.
So that those
pretty
records
amazing.
are probably safe for today. But as we've said earlier, it's all about the championship medal.
So T37 athletes with cerebral palsy. Way cleanly, Bethany Woodward of Great Britain got a good start in lane 3. as did the Russian Ozyanakova in lane 4. Keep an eye on the
So you
Australian
notice as
Jodie
we're running
Elkington. Once she does
on
get
our
in,
affected
she's
side,
very
so whether
strong.
you're a
She's
left-sided
showing her heat
hemiplegic
coming
or a
off the
right-sided
beam at the
hemiplegic,
200-metre mark.
both are
It
categorized
is
in the
Russian
T37 category.
Ozyanakova
You're going to notice
who
a
just
slight
has
limp
a narrow
and
lead
kind
at
of
the moment,
almost
but
a
good run
chicken
game
wing
coming from
arm
the British athlete. This is
holding
Bethany
a
Woodward,
notice
the
Mikey
tall figure
Hausberger
there
in lane
3.
7 there. It's
Woodward's
quite
already
evident,
made
and
it
so
bigger
for
on
some
most
of
of
us,
the
our
other
leg is
athletes.
more affected, for some of us,
Sneezer
our
in
arm is more
lane
affected, but the
6,
same thing.
also running
It's
well. She
straight
went
down
up
the
very
middle, all
hard in
down
the
one
heat
side,
yesterday,
left
so
or
she'll
right.
be wanting to run a bit of a different race here, and it looks like she has saved something for the last 150.
Well, Ozyanakova of Russia in lane 4 is really
I
going to
think
need
this
to
is
work if she
kind of
is
the
to
part of the
close
race
gap
where I
on this
decided
British
I'd be a little
athlete.
bit ballsy.
Bethany Woodward of
It
Great
didn't pay
Britain
off.
has a comfortable lead coming down with 80 metres to run in this women's 400-metre final. Sneezer of the Ukraine in lane 6 now beginning to try and close that gap, beginning to challenge, but the British athlete will have the strength, he'll have the form to hang on, to take this gold medal. It could be a close finish though for the silver medal, with the Russian challenging the athlete from the Ukraine, but it will be Sneezer who takes the silver medal. Ozyanakova of Russia the bronze medal, but nobody can deny Bethany Woodward the gold medal in the women's 400 metres T37 final.
Fantastic.
All right. Okay, so as you saw in that race, hopefully, you're going to notice that there is a definite difference between the gait of an able-bodied athlete, say an Olympic athlete, and a Paralympic athlete. And this just has to do with the condition, very similar to how amputees run, very similar to how I guess there's different categories, and we're all affected in a different way, and so that is what affects our gaits. And so for me, a big thing was always learning how do I take full advantage of the gait that I've been given and make it as able-bodied as possible. And so one of the things that I'm incredibly fortunate to have is my coach in my life, Jason. He is able to take a look at me and say, you know what, we're going to take an able-bodied movement and we're going to adapt it so that it works for you and works for your condition. And so I owe a huge part of my athletic success, my actually most recent athletic success, to him. He is the brains behind these two medals here. I won a silver medal in the 400 meter in Toronto at the 2015 Pan Am Games, and a bronze medal in the 200 at the 2015 Pan Am Games. And this was my most recent athletic success actually since London in 2012, which is a big part of why I'm here today and what I want to talk about with how resiliency in my life paid off in a big way post-games. And so at this point, I hadn't really experienced, other than one minor injury, that was my only bump in the road. And so I was very lucky in that sense. I came in at 18 years old to London as a veteran, as a senior athlete that knew what she was doing. I had already been under the big lights. I had Danced with the Stars, and I was ready to go. Or so I thought. And so I drew lane 8, and in a 400 meter, you're running blind when you're in that lane. And so for me, that was something that had never made me nervous. I was okay with that. And unfortunately, for 300 meters of my 400 meter race, I had a personal best. So I ran like a bat out of hell and felt super comfortable, super confident, and super fast. Unfortunately, with about 100 meters to go, I blew up. Total disaster. And I literally cried the entire 100-meter stretch home. And for those of you that are maybe runners in this room, that pain was agony like I have never experienced in my life. It was devastating. It was embarrassing. It was every single moment in my life it felt like I was all by myself, and it had all just come crumbling down. And so at that moment, I was devastated, and my whole family was there to support me, and they felt the same pain. And the thing is as athletes, we work so hard for so long for one race in our life. And so for me, I had just spent the last 4 years of my life preparing for this moment, not only to make it out of the heats, but to make it onto the next round and then hopefully make it onto the podium for Canada. Unfortunately, I finished last in my heat, last overall, and it was one and done for me. And this was a huge blow to my confidence, huge blow to my self-esteem, and honestly made me afraid for a very long time. And just a few pictures there. Oh, and my family. Okay, so after my race, my uncle sent me this quote by Robin Roberts, and it says, "Life provides losses and heartbreak for all of us, but the greatest tragedy is to have the experience and miss the meaning." And so for me at the time, I didn't know what that meant, and I wasn't sure how that was going to pan out. And I'm very, very fortunate to have such loving people in my family, and I will forever thank him for sending this quote. It's one that's resonated with me for a very long time, and I've learned a lot of valuable lessons out of it. And so what I didn't know at the time was that failure in the London Stadium was going to translate into my life off the track as well in classes. I went back home to my parents' house and took some time to recuperate from the tragedy in my mind that had just happened. And so I spent some time at home, I reflected, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to pick up my life and I'm going to go move to Langley, British Columbia and go attend Trinity Western University. And so while I was there, I was very fortunate to work with a coach at the time who literally lifted me out of the hole I had dug for myself post-London Games. And I will be forever thankful to him. I struggled through school because of it. I failed classes, numerous classes actually, and was very lost and unsure if I would ever make a national team ever again, if I was just this flame that had gone out in the world of Athletics Canada and the world of athletics. And I was for a long time, very doubtful if I would ever step foot on the track again in a world stage environment. When I moved to Guelph, when I started working with Jason, there was a part of me that was still afraid and a part of me that was still unsure if I still had potential to reach the goals that I had still set out for myself. And so going to Pan Am Games was a huge wake-up call for me, and not only that I could still do it, but that I was resilient enough to get back on the track and get back on the horse and do what I had always set out to do, which was make a podium. And so I'm very, very proud of those 2 medals. I'm very proud of what him and I have accomplished together. That same year, he actually also got me on my second World Championships team. I went to Doha, Qatar just last year, and unfortunately, this year while training for Rio, we fell short, which in the big picture for me was actually a blessing in disguise. This whole season was very liberating for me. I had so much fun. I enjoyed running again. I enjoyed competing. And I think that's the biggest and most important thing, is that I learned from all my failures in track and field. I learned that it wasn't the end of the world, and that track and field is just one part of my life. It's a huge part of my life, and I'm forever thankful for it. But it's taught me way more than I could have ever imagined. So I'll just go through a few photos here. So this was from the 400 at the beginning, which is why my composure is still relatively calm. It doesn't look like that with 5 meters to go, believe me. And on the podium there for silver. And then that was probably a good moment for me there. And my parents, so my dad and my mom. So this article came out actually in Guelph Life magazine this summer before Rio, and so at this point I wasn't sure if I was going or not. And the biggest thing I wanted to kind of let readers know is the importance of racing without fear and the importance of doing everything in life without fear. I learned the hard way, believe me, through my failures on and off the track, that fear isn't going to get you anywhere, and that failure is actually okay and it's inevitable. And that's all right. I do not know the secrets to success, and I probably never will. But I can tell you that I took a very long and winding and bumpy road to get to where I am, and I'm extremely proud of that. I want to thank my parents for their undying support, and I would like to thank TED Talks and Jen today for providing me with this platform to speak about my story, and hopefully you've learned something from my experiences and you take it and you run with it. So thank you.